Gretchen Wieners.
And I'm Karen.
Breaking news! Industrial revolutions are starting to occur.
How?
The population growth is booming to resistance of disease as well as new reliable food sources and higher sex drive.
Wow, aren't there new food supplies also, like maize and corn, due to the agricultural revolution?
Why, yes, there are, Karen. The farmers are willing to take more of a risk by growing new crops. There was a surplus of rich landowners, which led to the enclosure movement, which unfortunately led to a bunch of tenant and sharecroppers, and it turned them into landless farm laborers.
That's awesome, though. More food for us.
Yes. Also, Britain has become more innovative in the fact that the roads were improved to faster travel and that trade began to expand from local traditional goods to more faraway places.
But Gretchen, why was Britain the first to industrialize?
You can't just ask why a country is the first to industrialize, Karen. But Britain had fluid political and social structure, transportation infrastructure, inventiveness, and society open to talented and enterprising people.
Anything else changing in industries?
Well, now all the scientists are also using technologies of industry to improve society.
That's awesome. What the is going on?
Oh no! A woman is trying to escape from her terrible living conditions. Come back! You can't survive on your own. Candle making won't get you anywhere.
Why would a woman be trying to run away from the home?
Well, women that can't afford servants are always spinning and weaving and sewing hats and clothes for their families. And they're also doing other household chores.
Why don't we just talk to a woman about it? Hey, you.
Me? What are you doing outside the house?
Oh no, I'm going into labor.
Oh my god, are you having a baby?
No, worse, I have to go to the textile factory.
Oh, what do you do there?
Well, now they have this thing called division of labor. So I have to do the same thing over and over again. But I guess it helps with the mass production of stuff.
If you hate it so much, why do you stay?
I don't get much of a choice. I wasn't allowed to get a good education as a child. So I'm only qualified for low-paying jobs. And if I didn't work, then my family couldn't afford our house. It's not much of a home. Everyone's always away from each other working, so we never get to see each other.
With the start of this revolution, I bet it'll be the start of a new business cycle or period of economic growth.
Yeah, I bet. What effects did the Industrial Revolution leave on Britain?
Well, the pottery industry was revolutionized because it was the first form of mass production. Josiah Wedgwood, an entrepreneur, was the first to start a pottery business through industrial methods.
Wow, that's very interesting. I heard the cotton industry was also the first to start something new too. Mechanization. Mechanization is the process of using machinery to manufacture goods.
That's right. I'm pretty sure the spinning jenny was the first machine to use this process. It drew out cotton fibers and twisted them into thread. By the way, what were the advantages of mechanization?
Mechanization offered two advantages: increased productivity for manufacturer and lower prices for consumer. It was a win-win situation. After that, Richard Arkwright invented another spinning machine, the water frame, which produced strong thread without linen.
That sounds like a really important industry.
It was very important. It was the key industry that had the greatest effects on Britain.
I also heard that Eli Whitney was another person that revolutionized the cotton industry. He made the first device to separate the seeds from cotton fibers and made cotton growing economical through his cotton gin.
That was true for the cotton industry. It was actually referred to as the Cotton Kingdom because it was booming so quickly. However, the iron industry was almost just as important. It was transformed entirely during the Industrial Revolution.
They also developed this technique called puddling to make iron. They basically use it to mass produce the iron bars since it was becoming so popular so fast. And my resources tell me that iron was rare before the Industrial Revolution, but Abraham Darby discovered Coke.
You mean this kind of Coke?
No, get back to the lab, Heisenberg.
Sorry about that. Anyways, Coke was used in place of charcoal because it was so much cheaper to produce and it was more plentiful.
I heard it was so important that a building called the Crystal Palace in London was made completely of iron and glass as a symbol of the Industrial Revolution.
Wasn't another huge symbol of the Industrial Revolution the steam engine?
Yeah, kind of. James Watt invented the steam engine and made transportation that much easier.
What else did the steam engine do? Seems like it was a pretty big deal.
Well, at first it was used as a source of power to pump water in and out of mines and factories, but eventually people started thinking it was a good idea to use in their boats and cars and stuff to make travel that much easier.
Okay, well, speaking of getting around faster, have you heard about the new railroads?
Yeah, I have. In England, first railroads were basically carts being pulled by horses on tracks, but after they started using the steam engine to create trains that were much more comfortable and easier to travel.
Yeah, I heard in America they're building railroads like crazy. With the Industrial Revolution going on, they're moving out west so fast. There are a lot of things that are making communication easier, such as the electric telegraph developed by Alessandro Volta.
What exactly does that do?
Well, it basically works as a long-distance telegraph, and it works for longer messages too. They use the first Morse code developed by Samuel Morse and the basic ideas for the first telegraph.
Longer messages to who?
Well, the United States was really affected by the whole Industrial Revolution thing, and it really changed the way society ran because now most of the production was being done in cities rather than rural areas.
Well, then let's go out to the cities to check out what's actually going on.
Hey, I'll give you some information. What do you want to know?
Oh, well, this may be sort of a weird question, but why are there so few people walking close to the houses?
People dump their sewage just like straight out of their window all the time. It's gross.
That's kind of gross. So, do you guys drink from the wells?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have any other options, but they're super contaminated and people get sick from them all the time.
Do you ever worry about getting sick?
Yeah, I mean, people live so close together that disease spreads quickly.
Then why do you live here?
Well, factories popped up in the cities and I moved here to support my family. I didn't really have any other option.
So, do the railroads bother you?
I mean, eventually you get used to the smoke and it's super loud, you could say.
Well, thanks for the information.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I wonder what's going on with the people. The population is booming.
I know. People aren't as scared to have kids anymore since we have a constant food supply and places to live, even if they are right on top of each other, and jobs for the parents.
Speaking of food supply, isn't it crazy to you how the production of food can increase so dramatically over such a short period of time?
It's because people know we have the necessary foods in stock, so they can produce foods that are more for cash. They can make more money and produce many different foods for the war.
Man, wish we had that 15 years ago.
You know, I wish we had Adam Smith's ideas 15 years ago, too.
Well, why don't we talk to him about the changes he wants to make to the economy?
Hey guys.
Hey! We were wondering if you could talk to us about the changes you believe should happen in the economy today.
I would love to. You see, I wrote this book called The Wealth of Nations, and in it explained my whole theory of laissez-faire.
What exactly is that?
Well, basically, I think that the government shouldn't be involved in economic affairs. I would like to think that my ideas sparked many other people's ideas, like positivism in France.
Would you care to explain that to us?
Yeah, the French think that social and economic problems can be solved by application of the scientific method, leading to continuous progress in their state.
Sounds interesting. Isn't capitalism kind of the conflicting idea?
Yeah, from what I know about capitalism, it's all about the people and private businesses owning production and trade and such. Whereas in positivism, they believe that the people, especially the poor, need to be led by the government to reach success.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, thanks for the interview.
You know, talking to Adam really made me think about all the different ideas around the world, like utopian socialism.
Same, but I haven't heard of that one.
Well, basically it's this belief that through a communistic society, the people can reach an ideal society. Karl Marx is one to really support this idea, being communistic and all.
For some, this really changed the way they viewed things, right?
Yeah, probably, because the idea made sense.
I know now that everybody is becoming so productive by themselves, they probably just want utilitarianism to prevail.
Well, utilitarianism is the belief that economic success is obtained through maximizing utility, usually defined as maximizing happiness and reducing suffering.
You're probably right.
Yeah, have you heard of these guys Thomas Malthus and David Ricardo yet?
I don't think so, but they sound pretty important.
Well, they were philosophers and thinkers that attempted to explain poverty they saw without challenging the basic premises of laissez-faire.
Oh, I remember them. They said the causes of struggling workers was the growing population because it took a ton of the food supply and led to failing wages.
That's right. They claimed the workers' poverty was a product of natural law.
Yeah, I think they also said that the only way to avoid family was to delay marriage and practice abstinence, right?
Man, it really sounds like the middle class were really the main beneficiaries of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, they were, and at this time a new group arose, the entrepreneurs whose money came from manufacturing.
So you mean the landowning gentry and the merchants weren't the only ones that shared wealth and influence?
Yeah, exactly. Since the middle-class businessmen became wealthy, they gained more influence with the lower classes, who suffered from exploitations of working conditions with little pay for their families.
Man, poor women. They must have received the worst part of exploitation.
Seems like it. We're going to talk about women's lifestyles in the middle and upper classes and the effects that the Industrial Revolution had on that.
There have been so many changes on women's lifestyles lately that I think we should start by talking about them today.
All right, well, why don't we start by talking about the lower class women?
Sounds good.
The lower class women mostly worked out of their homes or as domestic servants. But this was really bad because they had low pay and many times they were sexually abused by their male employers.
Well, what if they had children?
Well, when the women had children, their lives were almost entirely changed until their children became the proper age to work again. Most of the family would be working when their children became of age. Because they were lower class and because their husbands are working and they had many children, they were really, really poor. And then women spent most of their time only cooking, cleaning, sewing, and doing other household chores, especially since they couldn't afford servants to do them all, just like the upper class women would have.
When the revolution came around, didn't it also force many children to work?
Yeah, it did. That was one of the major changes the revolution brought to the lives of children and women. They worked in textile factories.
Well, what about the middle and higher class women?
Well, because of the cult of domesticity, women were thought to have been needed to be totally removed from the business world, so that they were only in society when they were needed.
But they didn't just disappear into the household, did they?
Well, some of them did disappear into the household to take care of their children and their family. But a lot of the women sort of protested being removed from the business world. Some of them even wrote books and articles that were published in newspapers to speak about women's rights.
Wow, so I guess being in different classes really did change your whole world, especially if you were a woman in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, really. But when universal male suffrage came out and all those adult males, regardless of their race, could vote, women were furious that they couldn't vote just simply because they were women.
Man, that must have been so irritating for them.
Wow, I can't believe all the changes since the revolution has occurred.
Yeah, me neither. Man, things have changed. I cannot believe that the landowning gentry and merchants used to be the only ones who had wealth and influence. Now entrepreneurs control most of the global market and trade.
Man, what a distinction there has become between the rich and the poor. It seems like everyone is either a wealthy businessman or a poor exploited worker.
I feel bad for the people who clung to obsolete skill or craft. Since the development of power looms, handloom weaver wages have fallen by over 2/3.
Wow, that's bad. Another change was the price on food. The price of food rose faster than the wages, causing widespread hardships.
This sounds bad for the whole population, but it probably would have been worse for the children because they were impacted most vulnerably.
Correct. In an effort to solve the problem of children in factories, the government passed a Factory Act to improve their working conditions. It basically limited the age that you could work at and how long you could work for, and it was called the Factory Act of 1833.
Cool. So what were the overall effects of the dramatic increase and decreases of wage and food prices?
These harsh changes in the price of food and wages eventually created what was called the Hungry 40s, in which many people, especially the lower class, struggled to provide food for their families.
This sounds bad. Were there any other laws to protect women and children during and after the Industrial Revolution?
Yes, there was, such as the Mines Act of 1842, and it relates to the employment of women and children in the coal mines. It was established to protect children under the age of 10 working in underground mines because of the various health problems it could cause.
Well, thanks for all that information. And that's it for today, folks. Thank you for joining us on our documentary about the Industrial Revolution.
Tune in for next week to learn about the Ottoman Empire. Goodbye, folks.